Hi everyone. So I'm going to do a video on the Scrum Master, the probably most awesome title in all of the information technology jobs. Now, if you like this type of content, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It shows me that you appreciate it. Anyway, so what is a Scrum Master? Sounds like something out of a science fiction novel or something. So it's not. It's very real, actually. And it's one of those IT jobs that isn't just sitting at a computer programming or configuring networks or what you would generally think of as a person that works in IT doing. It's actually a lot more people focused. And if you are a people person and you think, well, I'm a people person, I shouldn't do anything in technology, maybe you're already in the degree and you think, man, I picked the wrong thing. Yeah, you're wrong on that. So actually, a great man once said, most IT problems are not technical, they're people problems. And that is the truth. So what does a Scrum Master do? Well, a Scrum Master works with something called Agile. And Agile development is kind of a way we structure our development process. And what I mean by that is when you're making something really big and complicated and there's a lot of people working on it, you can't just say, let's go out and do it, here's what we need to do. Because it's big and complicated, and you're going to kind of start building things at an upper level and branch down. So you're going to build the systems that you need to cover a lot of bases to eventually cover all of those bases at the end. Now, the issue with that is when I'm constructing something at the upper level, what if I don't know that somebody is responsible for having that thing do something at the lower level? And that's sort of what the Scrum Master is there to make sure works out. So I can sort of make up an example. So let's say we are, constructing an upper level of an application and it does some really basic things. We know it needs to be able to be read from, and we know that we need to be able to, as admins, write to it. Well, what if there was one situation that another developer was responsible for where a normal user needs to be able to write to it? Well, if I make it in the way that that can't happen in the beginning, well, we're going to create a lot more work for ourselves by the end. And that is the thing that the Scrum Master is kind of there to prevent. Now, Scrum comes from rugby, but in Agile, you will have what is called the daily Scrum meeting. This meeting will happen every day, generally in the morning in my experience, and it is basically where the developers will meet up with the Scrum Master kind of leading all of us, and we will go over these different things that we're working on and what's going on. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because if we don't do this, we might not talk to each other, especially in certain cases, like where some people on the team are actually contractors. And if we don't have this communication, it's very likely these types of situations that I mentioned before will pop up and we will put ourselves in a bind when we get near the end. So the Scrum Master's job is not just to go over what people are doing. Basically, Agile is divided into stories. Stories, you can kind of think of them as things that the system needs to do. They are based on things that a person using the system would want to do. And basically, they are really, I have responsibility over some, another developer has another group of them, and the problem with them is that they overlap sometimes. And actually, they overlap quite a lot. So the Scrum Master's job is to sort of keep that all aligned. Now there's another thing that happens called a blocker, and that means in working on a story, I'm stuck somewhere. I can't figure out what to do. There is some reason, perhaps internal, perhaps external, maybe I don't know something I need to know, maybe there is someone else that I need something from that I cannot get it from, and that is something we bring up at the daily Scrum. Hey, I can't do this. This external system I'm trying to pull data from, they have not gotten back to me, and I can't do what I need to do until they get me that data or a way to pull that data. So that is kind of your job as the Scrum Master, is to work between the developers, work with all of the developers, and then also take the blockers, try to find the resources, if they're not among the developers, to move it forward. Now, this sort of sounds like a head psychologist for the developers, and in a way, it sort of can be. It's sort of a person to help connect everything. Now, there's another big part to this that is almost as important, if not more important, and that is that you are tracking everything that's going on. You have an upper level view of this large system, conceptually, and you are keeping track of how it's working, what dependencies it has, what blockers there are, and kind of what's going on. So this is where it can get kind of complicated. These systems are big, and you do need some technical knowledge to understand some of the problems. You almost more so need a knowledge of upper level concepts, like know how kind of networks work in general, to know that some kind of network technician, someone who knows VPNs or something, would be the right person to go to for this problem, and maybe you can seek them out. But keeping track of it is more important than just, having it written down somewhere. It's something that we can all go back and look to figure out why we did something in the way that we did. And believe me, there are times that happens. It happens quite often. Another thing that you are going to kind of be doing is you're going to be working with stakeholders quite a bit too. And that is a big bridge that you will go back and forth between, is the developers, like me, and the stakeholders, like the people who are asking for the program to be written in the first place. These are the people that are paying for the darn thing. So there needs to be communication here. But like the business analyst, a lot of times the developers and the stakeholders don't really communicate that well directly. Even if they're not bad people, you just need somebody to kind of field that fence in a way. So as the Scrum Master, you will also make sure that the stories that are being carried out actually fulfill the user's needs. And that's a big thing that happens in software development, is that the question comes up, do they need it to do that? Or do they need it to do it this way or that way? Or what do they mean by that exactly? So that is something that you can kind of field as the Scrum Master. So if you're listening to this and it sounds like a lot of responsibility, it is. Honestly, it's a lot of responsibility, and it is something that can keep you very busy, but it's also very in demand. So again, I know I'm going over this very vaguely. This is someone that needs to work with a wide gambit of people, whether that be software developers or stakeholders, people of all different types. It needs to be someone who is good at keeping track of things and is detail-oriented, that can think about details within a system, this one thing that one of the developers said one time, and think about how that might relate to another thing in a system. Now, what does this mean for, say, your technical skills? What kind of technical skills do you need to be able to do this? Well, for an IT role, it's actually pretty light as far as technical skills. It's probably best that you do have knowledge, a familiarity in the system that is being developed. So let's say we're using a JavaScript framework like AngularJS or an application like ServiceNow to develop the application. Well, having a familiarity with this would be good. Do you have to be great at it? It'd be good, but probably not, especially if you are going in at a junior level. And yes, there are junior Scrum Masters, believe it or not. So beyond that, what skills do you need? Well, there are actually, I believe there's a certified Scrum Master certification. You need to be good with things like Word, applications that are used to track development, things like Jira. You should probably be good at those, although different companies will use different softwares for that. So you kind of have to pick and choose and find your way in there. And kind of, what else would you need? Well, good verbal skills, be a people person, be a good writer, and be good at keeping track of things. So a little bit general, and a lot of times they do want you to have, some kind of degree in the, IT or some kind of related field. So that is what I know about being a Scrum Master. I am not a Scrum Master, by the way, but I have worked with some. And if I got anything that you think was wrong or I left something out, please put it in the comments. All right, guys. Hope this helps. Have a good night.